Hello, Matt. It's Andy Hyder here. I've just been asked to do a little memory of our fantastic 2-year course of the Oasis Youth Ministry. So I thought I'd write a little poem for you, and it goes something like this. I have a few memories. Now let me think what comes first.
Matt Hirst, this is your life. Please follow me. Born on the 16th of October 1970 in Lewisham Hospital, South East London, to George and Marjorie, Marge Hirst. Matthew Lee Hirst, this is your life. George was working as a BT engineer, I understand, and Marge mainly as a housewife. You were brought up in Catford in South East London with your older sister Leslie, who's there, as you see. And Leslie sent me a message to read to you. She'd preferred me to read it than say it herself. Although from time to time they can speak with you as we go on, okay?
Oh, that's lovely.
My earliest memories were when you were a toddler. This is Leslie talking to you, not my memories, okay? Thinking back, I took my role of being big sister very seriously. We had a tortoise called Toby. You had a milk float that you could ride on. How Toby survived your childhood years, I'll never know, because you used to use Toby as a ramp and ride over him. I would watch you in the garden playing, and if I saw you, I'd go running in to tell Mum and Dad, Matthew's running over Toby again. Do you remember the hours playing in not only our garden, but next door with Paul and Simon? Yeah, right. And over the back of us was Val and Liz. You'd go from one garden to another. Do you remember helping Val's granddad light the bonfires? You loved that.
Yeah.
I can remember you loved to dress up. That's not changed, has it? One of many things comes to mind. You thought you were the Incredible Hulk running around like a lunatic.
Not just Superman.
Not just Superman. More of Superman later, don't you worry. Saturdays with Mum meeting Nanny Lil in Deptford High Street after a little shopping, she remembers. We would have pie and mash in Menzies or Goddard's. Again, nothing's changed, has it, really? Yeah. I think at a young age that was where you got your love for pie and mash. There we would meet our cousins, aunties, Nanny Fuller, Auntie Joan, Uncle Frank, Kay, Tracy, all lived on the same estate. We'd go from one flat to another, you in your younger days being carried around everywhere. You were very sporty. Cricket round the park with Dad and your friends, more so cricket than football, didn't know that. Yeah. Table tennis became a favourite with trophies at home on show. Snooker, tennis, and not forgetting swimming at Ladywell Baths. Scouts was the start of your journey with the church. From there on, you grew into this adventurous, confident... Is this the right... adventurous, confident, caring, well-spoken person. And you say, am I really talking about my brother? We always had a week's holiday away, always with other family members in a caravan or chalet at Ramsgate or Clacton. Talking of holidays, Mum and Dad loved their visits to you and Alison. You get Alison throughout this, not Ali. And Alison in Paddock Wood, Atherton, and then in Roppenstall. To them, that was their holiday. Some of my best memories of us, says Leslie, are visiting you and Alison. We came up to see you by plane, train, and automobile. But on one occasion, we travelled by coach. Arrangements were made for you to pick us up at the coach station. We kept in touch all the way up to 20 minutes before arriving. You told us you were there. Great. We came out of the side of the coach station. Yeah. No Matthew. Jack calls, "Where are you?" Matthew says, "I'm here." We say, "Well, we're here, but I can't see you." We'd come into Chorlton bus station and you were at Chorley bus station. Sorry, Matthew, easy mistake. Our days would be full of fun and laughter. Lovely walks, come rain or shine. Alton Towers comes to mind when went on the rapids. Mum was the only one to come off the ride soaking wet. And you say to your mum, "Sorry, Mum, still find that funny today." Eating out, coming back to watch films, many a barbecue, and Jack and Sam helping. And Jack's here somewhere. You'll see him in a minute.
Jack here as well. Oh.
You would sometimes take a while. That's on the barbecue. You got better, didn't you, with the barbecues from church? You all would be laughing and joking around. Mum saying to me, "When are we going to eat? I'm going to go to bed soon." You were the apple of Mum's eye, and I know both were very proud of you. Dad had a photo of you on your graduation day, a very proud moment for us all, on the front room wall, where many other family photos were. A neighbour had come in once, Leslie remembers, and she was with your dad. We were chatting about the photos on the wall. Dad pointed out, "That's my son, and he's got his own church." If that's not a proud father, I don't know what is. This is Leslie saying, "I'm also so proud of you, and I am excited for you, Alison, and our dear Olivia, in your next chapter of life." And then she says, "I just want to close on a quote. Today's moments become tomorrow's memories." And it's love your big sister and a kiss. I think Kevin would like to say something.
Yep. Okay. You can talk now. You can talk. Your memories.
I remember when your mum and dad went to Vegas and he asked them for a pair of Levi jeans. They had 10 days in Vegas, I think. When they come home, "Did you get my jeans, Dad?" They went, yeah, boy. Savannah's.
Not Levi's.
Never saw you wearing them, though, Matt.
They were awful, weren't they? Absolutely so embarrassing. Oh, dear. Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, I'm done.
Is Gemma there, or... Okay, anybody else wants to say anything while we're here? Otherwise, I've got some messages here in writing to quickly go through.
I think you have to read the messages.
Yeah. This is from Uncle John.
Yeah.
Wishing you all the very best for the future of your new venture in life. One story comes to mind. You're probably about 4 or 5 years old. Your Auntie Iris had just got off the phone from your mum. She said, "Guess what Matthew's done?" Your mum had put out a line of wet soapy washing. As it was dripping, worms had come up out of the grass. You and your mum had gone to Marks and Spencer's in Catford for a meat pie for dinner. Your mum put her hand in her coat pocket where she screamed as you'd put worms in her pocket. When your Auntie Iris was telling the story, we were both laughing, although your mum was not that well pleased. And Kay, Jem's mum, when Leslie asked me to think of a few things about Matt's early years, my first thought went to seeing him for the first time and the head of jet black hair he had. Our families...
Honestly, yeah.
Oh, there's some photos in a minute, don't worry. Our families were always close, so when Matt came along, he soon fitted into the routine of Saturday visits to Nanny Lil's, which is where he would get his love of pie and mash. This is a recurring scene, isn't it? A regular lunch after a walk down.
She used to give me pocket money as well all the time.
Me and my sister would often visit Matt and Leslie at their house, playing in the garden for hours. Uncle George taking us all swimming on a Sunday at Ladywell Baths or trips to the park. Even though Matt was a lot younger than us, it was never a problem, and we always had fun. But one thing, I don't know why, I'll always remember about a young Matt was his singing, when he was singing. His face would go red as he gave it to all with his favourite pop song. Thinking of all this and how close we were, I know that even though we're miles apart now, we'll always be there for one another. Good luck. Now, these are your cousins, Kathy, Steve, Barbara, John, Sarah, Mike and Eliza, or Eliza, okay? To say that Matthew's arrival was a surprise, coming 12 years after his sister Leslie was born, The family were in a bit of shock, and lots of whispered conversations were had among the ladies of our family. But once he was born, everyone was over the moon. Because he was the youngest of all the cousins, he was known as the baby of the family, and possibly was able to get away with a lot of things.
Yes, definitely.
At Christmas, there were always gatherings, parties. Matthew, together with Wayne, would become the entertainers, dressing up here, putting saucepans on their heads and doing little shows. At one party, Matthew decided to take a slip of everyone's drink, and before we knew it, Matthew was very drunk. As the years passed, Matthew came involved with the church, to the surprise of everyone, as no other family member had ever shown any interest. His passion for this continued over the years to eventually become a minister. We know that Matthew's next adventure he takes on, he will achieve all that he sets out to do. We're so very proud of him. Sending all our love and best wishes to Matthew, Alison and Olivia.
Okay. Oh, that's lovely. Oh.
So, those are family messages. Here are one or two photographs, I think. I've got to tell you that, unfortunately, we thought we were going to have an audio of you singing when you were a young man, but we couldn't manage to get it sorted.
It's not quite,
tape,
it hasn't arrived, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was getting it transferred from a tape. We found it in Matt's
Yeah.
Dad's
It's not
house.
bad though, is it, actually?
So you say it yourself.
Yeah, it's not.
While we were clearing out Matt's dad's house, we found a tape, and then I was getting it put onto a CD, but it hasn't come back yet. So it'll arrive on Monday.
Well, we'll perhaps have it in one of the future services. To go to do the music.
I'm sure everyone will love that.
Yeah, well, it's the start of a great singing career. Matt was educated at Sandhurst Primary School, Catford, and subsequently at Catford Boys' School. You're unable to show photos of the schools because neither exist in the form that they were when this illustrious student attended. In fact, Catford Boys' School is now merely the site of a petrol station on the South Circuit. Now, I was given these photos, Matt, teenage Matt, and there was, in the middle, there's a photo of a tracksuit top.
Yes.
Now, Ali, why was it that you wanted me to put that up?
Just because he wore that the whole time when we were going out. That was his staple. He wore tracksuits, whether it was the Stefan Edberg tracksuit or that one.
Yeah.
And again, we found that tracksuit top when we were clearing out his dad's house. So it's washed and in the wardrobe. Not that he's going to wear it again.
And Dad used to wear it as well, didn't he? He used to
Yes.
wear it kind of quite regular as well. So
Yes.
yeah, it's very special. But, oh my goodness, look. Wow.
When asked about his school career, Matt has been heard to say with typical modesty that he was never a great academic, but I managed to hold my own. I particularly excelled in sport, especially racket sports. This gave me an identity and respect among classmates.
Yeah.
Matt left school at 16 and went to work in the city for Hunter and Partners, surveyors and architects, whose offices were just off Oxford Street.
That's right.
However, God was already a big influence in your life. You'd been attending Brownhill Baptist Church, which is called after it's where it was, like K Street Baptist Church, the name on the road, in Catford. You'd been invited by a school friend called Michael to go with you to the Thursday Club, I think, for pre-teens. And Michael remained a good friend for years.
Yeah.
Brownhill Road Baptist Church held this camp every year, Camp Challenge, for 3 years on a farmer's field in Barkham, East Sussex. Now, one year, I understand, you had appendicitis just before the camp, and you insisted on going, but you still had your stitches in. So you were given a hula hoop dress to wear to protect you. You were away from social distancing in those days. And I think, Matt, it was there at Camp Challenge that you made your commitment at the age of 10.
Yeah.
Something that set you off on a long journey with the Lord.
Yeah.
Mind you, Matt, I'm hearing that you were by no means an angel in those days. You were once caught making your way from the boys' camp around the perimeter to the girls' camp.
Yeah.
Even at that age, you had an eye for the girls.
Oh dear, just like drowned, swallowed me up.
Matt became quickly more and more involved in the Thursday Club and church, and you soon exhibited a real passion in youth work, which blossomed and blossomed. You became heavily involved in the church youth group at Brownhill Road Baptist Church and in the Scouts too. You became a leader at Camp Challenge.
Oh, fantastic.
Now that's
Yeah.
one of those was Christmas, I think the one in the middle, was it
Yes.
Christmas? And the one on the left, as I look at it, was a Pirates' Day. But we've got a better photo of Pirates' Day there. I think you're the two in the middle in stripes.
That's right, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're in the black and white map. Stripes.
I've not seen that photo for years. Wow.
Matt was baptised in May 1988 and you preached your first sermon at the age of 18.
Yeah.
Can you remember what your theme was? I don't know, I'm asking the question.
Yeah, no, I think it was on. I think it was Ephesians. I think the passage was Ephesians, but I must admit I can't remember exactly what I preached
Oh,
on.
well.
If I'm honest.
It's quite a while ago,
Yeah.
so forgive me.
Yeah.
Couple of years.
Yeah.
But
No.
I was really proud at that moment though, because it was just such a big deal to kind of give a young person that sort of platform really, and I was really nervous and scared, but it was a really big deal and kind of led to so many things
Yeah,
that followed.
absolutely.
Really. Yeah, and they believed in me as well, and that was
Yeah.
gave me a chance really.
Well,
so,
they
yeah.
were right, weren't they? So the next question, Ali, I've got is, where and when did you come into Matt's life?
I was invited along to my friend Amy, who I went to school with and had known for many years. She invited me along to a youth, a Sunday school anniversary. I think Clive Calver was speaking at Brownhill. And I came along, and then we went back to her house for sort of cake and tea and sort of the youth group, and saw this young man across the way from me. I think we were about 16 at the time, and fancied him, but there was nothing going. So I met him for the first time then. It was a couple of years before we then had a kiss at a bus stop in Bromley,
Yeah.
and still nothing. He kept me waiting and kept me
I was
waiting.
just keeping my options open, just seeing what was around, and that was it.
But then things developed.
Look how skinny I was. Oh my goodness, look.
June 1989, Matt finally asked me out. This is what you've told me,
Yeah.
Ali. A month after my 18th birthday, and we went to Margate for the day with some friends. We went to the Horse and Groom pub in Sidcup for our first date, and he came to pick me up in his blue Ford boy racer, Capri, wearing an England rugby top, faded 501s and a pair of cowboy boots.
That's it.
That's what you're dressed in. But
Yeah.
things developed for that, and then you became an item.
Look at all that hair.
I know.
Matt's work life then stuttered a bit. You were made redundant in about 1991 from Hunter and Partners.
Yeah.
But you worked at several jobs then, from earning money for college, including a car, this interests me, a car dealership in the old Kent Road. Good life experience. Can you imagine Matt, the car salesman?
Yeah.
I bet you could sell ice to the Eskimos, Matt.
Do you know what? It was such a brilliant experience because, people kind of on the old Kent Road, they just said it how it was. They did no airs and graces, and you had to learn how to deal with people like that. And because I worked as a service receptionist, so I didn't actually kind of work in the showroom. I was kind of responsible for helping cars to get fixed. And my boss was a little guy called Alan, and he was just rough and ready, a bit of a wheeler dealer, kind of a Del Boy type. And he was just salt of the earth. He was just a really nice guy, and he always looked after me, and he just kind of taught me the ropes. And there were one or two customers who were quite actually aggressive as well. People get like with their cars. And he always protected me, and I kind of learnt a lot from Alan, and I'm always so grateful for that year. It was like a stopgap in between Hunter and Partners and college at Oasis. So just really grateful. Learnt so much about life really there. Yeah.
And that's when your Christian ministry training really got started. Was it 1993 you started?
That's it.
2-year Oasis ministry course for a Cambridge diploma linked to Spurgeon's Bible College.
That's right.
Do you remember this guy?
Hello, Matt. It's Andy Hyder here. I've just been asked to do a little memory of our fantastic 2-year course of the Oasis Youth Ministry. So I thought I'd write a little poem for you, and it goes something like this. I have a few memories. Now let me think what comes first. A memory about a man they simply call Matt Hirst. I met this very young man back in 1993 on an Oasis Trust course called the Youth Ministry. It was a 2-year course training youth worker Matt whilst learning youth worker skills with a table tennis bat. Seminars, theology, and all you need to know. Matt even learned how to play the piano. A place that developed his strong discipleship walk, hearing very incredible workshops from the Reverend Steve Chalk. So many fond memories of a man so servant-hearted. Huge blessings on you, mate. Now celebrate 2 meters parted. Have a fantastic evening. God bless you. Miss you lots.
Wonderful. Oh, amazing.
Your placement on that course was at St Andrew's Methodist and Anglican Church in Paddock Wood.
That's right.
Paddock Wood.
Yeah.
1 or 2 slides here about Paddock Wood, I think.
Pat, look at them on rather than the screen.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
During your first year there, I think you lived with a couple called Doreen and Rodney. And they have fond memories of you and time with them. We haven't managed to contact them, but we have managed to contact some people from St Andrews.
Hey,
Hello, Matt. Hello, Annie, and hello, Olivia.
hi Matt.
We all feel very privileged to be able to talk about the Paddock Wood years, shall we call them, which were amazing. How can anyone forget you, Matt, when you were introduced to us resplendent in your very stylish purple shell suit? That is something definitely to remember. You were so proud of it, and you assured us it was the height of fashion. I'm not sure we really believed you. You joined us at St Andrews, and our youth work was never the same again. You came as a student studying for your youth workers qualification with Oasis. Through you, we were introduced to and became involved with the charity, and this association influenced and changed the lives of many of our young people, including my own 2 children. While you were with us, you were not only developing our youth work, but you had the added pressure of studying for your qualifications. Oh, I can remember it being very tough at times. I think you were only supposed to spend 3 days a week on youth work, but typical of you, we all felt that you gave us 100% of your time. You started taking the leaders to conferences and training events and developed us, which had never happened before. You developed our youth work to such an extent that we started taking groups of the teenagers to soul survivor camps in Somerset, a completely new experience, and one which impacted every young person who attended. We also had long weekends away at a Christian centre close to us called Carity Wood. One year, if you remember, we took 180 young people from the ages of 8 to 18 camping or staying in lodges. Magical times which are still remembered vividly by people who were impacted by your ministry. I still keep in touch with lots of them, as you know, and we meet up from time to time, even though they're married with their own children, and we still talk about you. You're also remembered for an amazing production of Joseph and his amazing Dreamcoat, which you masterminded. If I remember correctly, I think you did several performances to ensure that the whole church and the community had the opportunity to see it. You developed strong links with our local comprehensive, where you supported the CU and was often seen on the playground just chatting to groups of young people. Do you remember doing that detached work, going down to the War Memorial, where all the youths gathered? Everybody else gave them a wide berth, but you just went in and talked to them, chatting away. You were known in the town, and young people were comfortable to come and talk to you. As for personal memories, it was a privilege to watch you grow and to develop into the man you are today. And when you introduced us to the lovely Ali, we realised you knew how precious and special she is. A match made in heaven. You would take me home after youth groups and would come in to talk about the next week's meetings. I lost count of the number of eggs and pieces of toast you consumed. I seem to remember spaghetti, but John says that he can't remember you having spaghetti. I think he did. You would walk up and down, rehearsing what you were going to say next week and developing your ideas. Have any of you ever eaten out with Matt? Did he produce the inevitable bottle of tomato ketchup he always had in his pocket or his car, which he would smother all his food in? Matt loved the winter, and the rare occasions when we had snow, he'd come up. Do you remember, Matt, we used to go out and play in the snow, snowball fights, snowmen, but for you, rolling down the hills was the best fun that you could ever have. We would then go back to our house, and oh my goodness, our open fire and our log burning stove. Did you know that your minister is a pyromaniac? Fire absolutely fascinates him. I look back to those days as the halcyon days. They have a special place in my heart and the memories that will last forever. Thank you, Matt. We love you.
Hey, Matt. So I was 13 when you showed up in Paddockwood, which obviously was just a couple of years ago. But I am so grateful that you came. I'm so grateful for all you taught me, for believing in me, for all the love and care you showed to me and my friends and my family, and the impact of who you are and what you did while you were with us has echoed through my entire life. And I love you, and I love Ali, and I'm sure I'm going to love Olivia when I meet her. And I'm just so grateful that you were around during those years for me. And I hope you enjoy today. And I love you all very much, and hopefully see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, that's lovely.
The first year of the course, you were living with Rodney and Doreen, but then you found yourself a new wife. On the 16th of July 1994, you got married at Brownhill Baptist Church.
We did.
And you moved into a cottage in Paddock Wood.
Yeah.
Ali, I expect your Prince Charming carried you over the threshold into a fabulous romantic cottage, didn't he?
I think he stumbled me through the doors.
Yeah.
And yes, it needed a lot of work doing to it. It was
interesting.
It was
I think
interesting.
it's probably
It was a
the
good
only-
first house.
Yeah. The sort of house that kind of makes you
Appreciate.
really appreciate what follows, you know, and yeah.
The
They
coal
were
man
happy
delivered our coal and walked it through the house to the coal shed in the garden.
Yes.
I'm told.
Yes, we had a hopper boiler that would explode every so often all over the kitchen. It
And
was
would
lovely.
leave a layer of thin dust just over all the surfaces. Yeah. Oh, happy memories.
You graduated from that course in 1995. That's, I think, a picture of your graduation there.
No, yeah.
But you're so impressed St Andrew's Church, where you'd been on placement, that you were offered and accepted a 3-year contract as their full-time youth minister.
Yeah.
I understand you had a great time down there.
It was, yeah, it was just one of the best kind of 5 years of my life. I think because it was the first one, Ian. I think it was the first church. Everything was new in ministry, and they were just the most kind, generous, loving people that I could ever hope to work with. They were wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and kind of taught me so much. And just to see their faces on the screen there, just it means the world to me. Absolutely means the world to me. And the picture that you can see there, the guy with the red top on, that's the Reverend Simon Tillotson. He was the curate at St Andrews for 4 years. To his left, Canon Dennis Winter. Dennis was there, had been there, for about 30, 40 years. And then to the far right, my left, your right, I imagine as you're looking at it, was the Reverend Stuart Radcliffe, who was part of the Methodist Church, because it was an LEP, Anglican Methodist. And they were a great team, and I still keep in contact, primarily with Simon, and he's doing really well for himself as well. So just some great memories and great men of God there as well.
The photo on the right, I think, is a group when you were leaving. Actually.
Yes, that's right, taken in the in the church, yeah.
So that takes us to July 1998, and you moved to Atherton and became part-time minister at Atherton Baptist Church.
Hi Matt, I gather that you, Ali and Olivia are off to pastures new. So on behalf of everyone at Atherton Baptist, I wish you the very best and God's blessing for the future, whatever that may hold for you all. And I'm sure you have many happy memories of your time with us as well. But perhaps, I'm sure you remember this probably better than me. First time we met was at Margaret and Neville's when Chris and Anne brought you as guests, without saying who you were or why you were there, just that you were staying with them, I think. And I don't recall whether it was a New Year's Eve party or a birthday party, but something of the sort around at Margaret and Neville's. So it was a few days later at the deacons' meeting, I think, that Chris told us that if the deacons approved, that you would be interested in coming to Atherton to help us set up and build up the youth work in the church. And of course, there followed from that 3 wonderful years with your guidance and inspiration for the youth work. Other memories that are quite memorable were the Three Peaks expedition, when we were raising money for the Lackaby Youth Weekend, which at that time was up in the Borders, down in Cheshire somewhere now, I think, I'm not sure. But yes, so we climbed Snowdon, Scarfell Pike and Ben Nevis in 36 hours, which was quite an achievement, particularly for me. Not used to doing quite so much vigorous exercise, but it was a great time and happy memories of that, particularly memories perhaps of the guest house that we stayed at near Fort William, where although it was nearly 3 o'clock in the morning, I think, when we arrived there, the owners of the guest house had stayed up waiting for us to welcome us, make sure we were settled into our rooms. And I can't remember, but I think they may even have had some hot drinks and biscuits or something of the sort for us, which I think was really quite amazing of them. Brilliant. And then in the morning, when we went out to the minibus, of course, we realised that there was a certain supermarket bag hanging on the outside of the back doors. I won't go into details about that, but if you remember it, Matt, you'll quite understand what that was about. And perhaps the other, two quick others. There was also the occasion when we had a big top in the church after one of our summer weeks with the for the youth around town, which was great fun. We've never done anything quite like that since, but it was great fun having you as the ringmaster and Eva as a clown, as I recall. And the final memory would be the leaving do that we did for you. And I gather this is going to be shown at the leaving do that K Street is organising for you. I hope they can organise something quite spectacular, even though we're still under lockdown, but I hope that works out. Anyway, we had George and Eva as retired Matt and Ali somewhere in Scotland, I think. Reminiscing about the years that they had spent at Atherton and all the fun things that they had got up to. As I recall, we had a little quiz in the middle of that was possibly slightly rigged against you, and your forfeit was to sing karaoke with your favourite artist. But anyway, that's all happy times, and I trust that with God's leading, there will be many more happy years for you in your new position. So all the best from myself and from Atherton Baptist.
That was George and Eva were mentioned, and I think they helped take you under their wing a bit. We did hear on Sunday a bit about the struggles, perhaps, of a soft southerner coming north and settling up here and then liking it, which is good. At the same, this is Atherton Baptist. A couple of pictures from that. At the same time, of course, you were part-time youth officer for the NWBA, working with Chris Haig, Keith Hobbs, and then latterly Phil Jump. Of course, we'll be hearing from Phil Jump tomorrow. I asked Ali whether she remembered these happy times, and she told me that by this time Matt's sister Leslie had met and married somebody called Kevin. And they had two small sons, Jack and Sam. And the whole family, that's Leslie, Marge and George as well, you'd travel up for a week in the summer. We would this is Ali saying, we would take a week's holiday for work and go to the beach for the day, Alton Towers, bowling, etc. In the early days, we'd swap cars with Sandra Crawford of the NWBA because she had a 7-seater, so you could all travel together.
Right, yeah.
And I think it was about this time too that you became close friends with Jim and Fiona Wright.
Yeah, that's right, from Wigan.
Yeah.
Hi Matt, hi Ali. Jim's got a thought he wants to share to kind of bookend your ministry at K Street. But before he does that, I just wanted to jump in and say how much we love and value both of you and your friendship. You're such a special couple, and we're so delighted that couple has expanded to include one very precious Livy. She's one amazingly lucky girl, having parents with such an immense capacity to love and have fun. I know how much our boys treasured time with Funky Matt and Ali when they were young. We love you all and trust that you will continue to inspire and love all those you come into contact with. Anyway, that said, over to Jim.
Hi Matt and Ali. Well, your time at K Street is coming to an end, and we wanted to add our voices to the many that are wishing you well this evening. But I wonder if I can take you back all the way to the start of your ministry at K Street, when I preached at your induction. Can you remember the subject I preached on? I wanted something that reflected the reverence and seriousness of the situation, something fitting your station, Matt. So I told the story of the 3 little pigs. I also did reference 1 Corinthians 3 verses 11 to 13. Paraphrased, the foundation of our faith is Jesus Christ. And you can build on this foundation with gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay or straw. but fire will test the quality of your work. Matt and Ali, we believe you to be a couple who build with materials that will last the test of fire and time. And we believe that you have built with quality at your time at K Street. And we know that you'll continue to build with quality wherever God may lead you next. Listen, guys, we love you both. God bless and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye now.
Bye.
As part of your role at the NWBA, you headed up the Lackaby pre-NWBA Youth and put together the inaugural Impact Weekend, in those days taking place, as was said, in the Scottish borders. There are a couple of slides here about your time as the Association Youth Minister, and that impressive story, look at Whittle Park, about that young man being baptised.
Yeah.
Freezing cold.
That was so cold, Ian. I can't begin to describe how cold that was.
River.
Just took your breath away.
Yeah.
It really did. Oh, it was amazing. Wow, look, yeah.
Phil took pity, or possibly was worried about food poisoning with his pre-risk assessments on these trips, and so he came as on board as chef and has been doing that ever since, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Then, in July 2001, somebody called Adrian Argyle, our current minister, had a great idea. Let's bring Matt to K Street Baptist Church in the same role as he'd been at Atherton. And that's what happened. I've got some extracts here from the newsletter. That was the notice that went in the newsletter.
Yeah.
And this is something that was written in the editorial. This year is especially true as the first day of September marks the official beginning of Matt's ministry with us. And that in itself represents the opening of a new era at K Street. We welcome Matt and Ali, can't read that, it's writing, into our midst, and hope that they will soon feel at home with us. We're looking forward to really seeing God working through Matt's ministry, as we are aware it will bring with it new things. Are we really prepared for this? The past year, as last year, has been thrilling to witness the way that God has been working among some of our younger people. I believe that that's only the tip of the iceberg. We must, of course, give Matt time, but I, for one, am excited about the new opportunities that his appointment will provide, not just for K Street, but throughout the Rossendale Valley. We slightly more senior ones in age can learn as much from our younger brothers and sisters in Christ. That was written by somebody called Ian Pickup, as it happened. When we found out who it was, I didn't realise before. This was in the newsletter. This was from you before you came. Introducing Matt Hirst. I'm passionately committed to youth work and seeing God's kingdom amongst the young people in this town. As I begin my ministry at K Street, I've been asked to write a few words by way of introduction. So here goes. I grew up in southeast London and got involved with youth work in my late teens. I quickly discovered that it was an area of ministry that I found rewarding. The more I got involved, the more I felt that God was leading me into full-time youth ministry. From that point, I joined the Oasis Youth Ministry in London, which was linked to Spurgeon's Bible College. As part of my training, I was placed in an Anglican church in Paddock Wood, Kent, having spent my formative years in a Baptist church. I spent 5 years there and was involved in a wide variety of activities, including church services, schools work, holiday clubs and midweek clubs. For the last 3 years, I've been the youth pastor at Atherton Baptist Church, combined with my work as Association Youth Officer. The dual role has proved to be challenging, yet very rewarding, and I've gained some valuable insights into the whole area of youth ministry. Young people today live in a fast-moving, pluralistic and visually orientated society. Goodness me.
Oh, there were some big words there,
swallowed
weren't
the
they?
dictionary there.
Impressed with that, Johnny? Yeah, good stuff, mate.
I see my role as not only being able to help young people in the transition from adolescence to adulthood and all that involves, but also to share the life-changing message of the gospel in a way they can understand and experience for themselves. I'm very excited about the potential there is within K Street, and I'm looking forward to starting my ministry with you. Ali and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for your cards and the warm welcome you've given us. Your support has been invaluable as we settle into our new home and surroundings. Thank you. And then there's just a note that on the Fellowship News, the next newsletter, month's newsletter, Matt Hirst was inducted, sorry, as our youth pastor and welcomed at a well-attended service on September the 1st. Taking part were Reverends Kay Hobbs and C. Haig from the Northwestern Association of Baptist Churches. Matt also works for the association. Our own Reverend A. Argyle and Reverend J. Wright of Wigan Baptist Church, who we just heard, a friend of Matt's, who gave the message. So, you, as we know, you continued to work for the NWBA while you were with us. And just a few photographs now of some of your time at K Street with the youth. Some of the people you'll recognise, I think.
What are you doing?
I was trying to be cool.
That red sweatshirt, gosh.
A lot of these pictures I put in this book, which you'll be getting afterwards.
Ah, it's lovely. Oh, look at them there, look.
Oh.
Don't know who's helping who with that.
Yeah.
But you're having a bit of a sandwich or something down in the corner.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh, look at Dan Bauer and Miss Matt as well there. Look.
Christmas party.
Yeah.
Seddon's dining room table.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. No.
I think you enjoyed your time as youth minister, didn't you?
No, I loved it. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You were talking about it on Sunday and
Yeah.
mentioned it and said you're going to talk about it this Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That they were just such an important part of my life, and I think they gave more to me than I gave to them. You know, I don't think they realised what they mean to me, really. So,
well, I did have a chat to some of the lads now. So there's a Zoom recording with a few of the lads, which you might be interested to see.
So I think the first time I really remember from Matt is when I first met him, and that was before I think he was a minister at K Street. He came to Soul Survivor with about 6 of us from the youth, and it was amazing that we didn't know him, but by the end of the week, like, he was like a best mate. I remember, you know, Matt is a big man for hugs, so we had big hugs at the end, and it's great that, you know, from then we've been multiple times to events, and he's been a really good inspiration for us. I think it was the year after Matt managed to find a minibus from somewhere. Who knows where he found this minibus? It was just an absolute wreck. It was, you know, there was no doors at the back, no side doors. You had to climb over the seats, no stereo. But, you know, like, just that time with him was just great fun. And, you know, he's a mate as well as a minister. And I think that says volumes about him.
And then, like, Soul Survivor became a massive part of our lives then every summer, didn't it? Like,
Yeah,
remember
totally.
the time you probably gave Matt kittens that time that you sliced your leg open on a tent peg, Phil?
Oh, we were playing volleyball over a tent. And I took a chunk out of my knee, and We used to, and he carried me down to the first aid tent and then carried me back on his back like a true soldier.
Yeah, that wasn't the only injury you guys had at these events, was it? What about Phil?
Well, on March's watch, I crashed a quad bike into a barbed wire fence and got airlifted. So that probably gave him even more kittens.
I think Matt's had to deal with all of our trauma growing up, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Did that launch your great career, Rob? Did that launch your great career, having somebody flying Phil away?
Oh, that was the inspiration. I think just seeing how calm and collected Matt was, obviously that sparked his whole career in with the air ambulance. Yeah. That said, I do think me and James spent the majority of that traumatic experience just sunbathing on the roof of James's car, whilst Matt ran to and fro tending to Phil in his poor Chelsea shirt.
Well, yeah, I remember him being next to me when they were cutting the Chelsea shirt off, and I was more bothered about that than the bone that he could see in my arm.
Well, Doug, you were his big brother. Were you not looking after Phil?
Well, no, I was actually really annoyed because we were queuing up to have a go on this quad bike, and Phil jumps the queue, and so he's the first one on, and he crashes it, so nobody else got a go. Like.
Well, can you imagine the health and safety risk assessments now? I didn't have a helmet, any equipment. I mean, Paul, you would you do that with your kids?
No, because I'm a true professional. I think you could sue him, Phil. I think you could. Yeah. There's a claim.
Awkward.
Yeah. Simon, what's your thoughts about this young man, Matt Hirst?
Matt is a great guy. He came in not long after I joined K Street actually, and was sort of coming to the end of school and about to head off into university. And he was just such a great friend as well as a youth leader. You know, it was just so good to go to those YP groups and sort of prepare ourselves for sort of leaving the Valley for the first time in our lives. And then during the first year, a big thing for me was getting baptized, and I'm just so grateful how accommodating Matt and the church were in terms of how they baptized me, how they sort of changed things just for me. It meant so much, and it was a brilliant day. And yeah, Matt is just a great friend, and these last 20 years, and yeah.
Dan, you're not quiet very often. You got anything to add to this conversation?
Hi, Matt. End of an era, really. I guess from my perspective, the last 20 years, when I think back, you have always been there. I mean, like literally, you've always been there. So if I was at school, you'd be coming to see CUs and doing assemblies. If I was at church, you'd clearly be there. If I was at a youth group, you'd be there. When I took a gap year and went to Accelerate, you supported me through that. You were there. When I raised money for it, walking up mountains in the middle of the night, you were there. When I got married, you were there. When I've had funerals, you were there. You've always been there over the course of 20 years, both at YP and since then. And, a huge thank you and a huge honour to say that you are a really good friend, and it's the end of an era, but amazing times that we've had in the past. And I know that you've got amazing times ahead as well.
James, do you want to add anything to this august body?
Yeah. Hi, Matt. So I think, Matt was a massive part of a very important part of our lives, a very important time, lots of changes for us, lots of big decisions for us. And Matt was a massive part of that. I think not just in YP, a lot of us spent a lot of time with him in CU as well at sixth form, and obviously, as Rob's mentioned, all our summer holidays to Soul Survivor, Festival Manchester, things like that. And a trip to France, I'm pretty sure, at some point. And preparing us for, as I've said, big changes. I don't know if anyone remembers, I went to Brazil on a gap year, and obviously Matt was helped me in kind of preparing for that and getting ready for that. But I think one thing that stands out that I remember is some wise words from Matt, which at the time didn't feel relevant to me, but now that I've grown up more, seem a lot more kind of important to my position, and that's that he's not bald. He's a solar panel for a sex machine. I'll leave it there.
I should take it into account as well, I think. All this, Paul, you've ended up doing the same job, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a youth leader now. I've been doing that for the last 12 and a bit years. And whenever I chat to different youth leader friends of mine, or, you know, sharing at training conferences why I do the job I do, Matt, he always comes up as like the big inspiration for me. I think the ability that he created this space where I met some of my best friends to this day, you know, that in itself is such a massive thing in youth work, just being able to create that welcoming atmosphere. And yeah, like the other guys have said, all the different amazing residentials we went on, Soul Survivor, life-changing times. So Matt's, been such a massive part of that. And just like, if I could be half the youth worker that Matt is, I'd be really, really proud of that. I don't know what else to say. It's just, I think this call just speaks volumes to how big an influence Matt has been. And I bet he probably doesn't even realise as well. I think that's another amazing thing about him. So, yeah.
Such a legend.
Yeah.
His only flaw is an Arsenal fan.
Yeah. And he eats raw sausages as well. That's another
That's a weird
dirty habit. You need to stop
still
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Well, those are important words to finish. I'm going to have to say goodbye. Thanks very much, guys. I'm sure Matt will be very pleased to hear how well, you know, he's influenced you in the directions that you're all going. I'm sure he's proud to have been your mentor and your friend. So thanks very much, guys.
No, that's brilliant.
Can we think about vision now? Because I may be wrong, but we're going to hear from Nathan in a minute. But I seem to remember that original idea, was it Christopher Phillips had Mercy on a Saturday night
That's right. Yeah,
on a Saturday night up at the church Zion,
wasn't it? Yeah.
and from that the Rossendale churches the young people started to meet together.
Yeah.
Obviously Susie got involved as well, and Nathan. And Susie, and obviously we've got Susie now, but Susie was working on this estate and so on. So you know the influence was there. The big concerts at Marlpits,
That's right.
all the schools work.
Yeah.
You were, you know, partly involved in that in the beginning, weren't you?
Yeah, I certainly played a part.
Yeah.
And obviously Nathan and the other guys kind of did the donkey work for it, but just was able to support them and influence.
I just wanted to put a word in for you there, because I think that's forgotten that you were involved. Anyway, let's hear from Nathan now.
Hey Matt, how are you doing? It's Nathan here, and I hope you're enjoying the service so far. Obviously gutted that we can't be there in person, along with everyone else, but this, I guess, is the next best thing. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to turn the clock back a little bit. Well, when I say a little bit, I mean like 19 years, back to 2002, when I was only a young man, and we had this idea of putting on youth events, and we really had no training for this and no budget, and no building and no long-term plans either. Just this idea, this vision to do something where other young people, our friends, could come, where we could talk about Jesus and worship him in a way that made sense to us. Events that were full of life and full of energy, and where young people didn't just fit in but actually joined in and belonged and were part of. And probably a lot of people don't really realise how much you got alongside us in those early years, how instrumental you were, and what a massive part you played in encouraging us and like supporting us, but also trusting us to give it a go. And and we did workshop days and worship nights and youth alphas, and then it was schools weeks, and then huge open air concerts at Mile Pits, and through it all you were there in the background cheering us on. And no one could have imagined where it would all go and where it would all lead. And I certainly didn't think that in 2021 I'd be sat here in a youth centre, and that during this pandemic we would have been able to do counselling and mentoring for young people, supporting young people all over Rosendale with their emotional well-being, that we'd be still working with schools, that we'd be still putting on events for young people, talking about Jesus, helping them to find hope and faith and courage, and be able to tell their friends about the faith. And who knew that we'd still be doing it? And I just wanted to say thank you, because the things that you taught me and the others in those early days, you taught us by example. You showed us like how to encourage others, how to enable young people especially to serve God, and how to fan into flames that passion that they had. And it's something that we've been doing ever since. And now I'm a proper grown up myself. I realise and see the value in that, and everything that you did for us. And I just think you taught me so much, more than you realise, especially in those early years, through the planning meetings and through the process of getting the events up and running, but also ever since, because you've been like one of our number one fans through the highs and lows of the years that have followed. And I know you're leaving Rosendale, but I know that God has got something new and exciting for you and for Ali and for Olivia. So I wanted to say thank you from everyone here at Vision. I wanted to say that we appreciate you and we love you, and we're grateful for everything that you've done for us, and the ways that you've helped us. And we just pray a massive blessing on you and the family as you move into this next chapter. So stay in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Goodbye and God bless.
I remember when you first arrived as youth minister, people were saying, he's so good with everybody, not just the young people, with the old people, people like me then, and even older than me. There were people even older than me in those days. And that's something that's obviously been right at the centre of your ministry, hasn't it? Bob White was somebody who you were particularly friendly with. This is a video that Janet's put together about your time in America.
Yeah.
Hi, Matt and Ali. Remember our trip to America that first year you were at K Street? We flew into Chicago and discovered that Willow Creek Church was only down the road. Well, by American standards, and we spent the day there. We were amazed to discover that it was on its own campus, with 4 services holding 5,000 people at each one. When we parked there was a bus to take you to the auditorium. What an inspiring start to the trip. As we waited for our next flight to Memphis, Matt had a little snack. As you can see, he was in heaven with the food. We visited Gracelands to take a look at Elvis's home, outfits and awards. Americans do tack so well. The tour ended up at the graveside. Surprisingly, an emotional experience we didn't expect. From there, we drove to the Ozark Mountains to stay with the best man from our wedding, Dave Scudder, and his wife, Ginny. They live on a massive farm, and Dave is a Baptist minister. And yes, that's a real gun in his hand for protection, and the one Bob is holding. Matt loved this truck called Gator and was often seen driving it around shouting, "Yee-haw!" We went out for many meals. And as you can see, we all put weight on. We also went to a hillbilly show, and this is Ali getting this man's autograph. And Matt posing with a cardboard cutout. Not really our cup of tea. We then flew into San Francisco and went on the trams and all the usual touristy things. Ate more food, Baskin-Robbins ice cream this time. Walked in the redwoods and then home and exhausted and fat. Shortly after the trip, Ali was baptised at K Street, a great occasion.
Do you know, I put half a stone on that trip. Yeah, seriously, straight up. Half a stone. What was it? Was it 2 weeks? How long were we
3
out?
weeks.
3 weeks. Half a stone.
2002 or so. It was fairly early after.
It was 2002.
April 2002.
And you know, you go into McDonald's or you go into KFC, and you just get refills. So I just
Well, you are able to say no.
yeah, but that no's not part of my vocabulary when it comes to food. And it was just amazing, wasn't it? Absolutely amazing. Yeah, half a stone I put on that week. It's just, yeah, amazing. Oh, such fabulous memories. Fabulous.
There's a couple of photos here of you and Bob. I just couldn't resist putting up.
Yeah.
What a guy, eh?
Yeah.
He was, yeah, I can't say too much, Ian, he'll start me crying, so I better leave it there. But he was an amazing man. Yeah. Yeah.
Other significant events. April 2002, your mum and dad's golden wedding anniversary. I think that's...
Yeah.
With the family there.
Yeah.
February 2004, your mum died, didn't she, with a stroke? The words that I understand you said about your mum, this is what Alice told me there. She modelled what true love looks like in the flesh. You also said parents influenced life, brought me up to respect other people and to always try best, installed good values into me. They were very special to you, your parents.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were.
2005, you, not satisfied with all these other achievements, became a student minister at Northern College. And in 2008, you were called to be a minister in training. Probation at K Street. Not on probation. And I think one of the highlights was your dad, George, flew with the boys for your 40th birthday in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
You graduated in 2011 from Northern College, became a fully accredited and recognised Baptist minister at the Baptist Assembly 2012 in London. Emerson's, Mellish's and Williams joined you, and you were ordained in 2012.
Yeah.
And your dad was able to come to that.
Yes, he was.
He came
Yes,
up
he
for
was.
that as well.
Yeah.
But I think you were a bit worried, weren't you, that he was going to stand up and say something?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That didn't.
No, I'm
that
quite
didn't
glad he
happen.
didn't really. Yeah. And what was special at the Baptist Assembly was, I mean, one of my big inspirations, Tony Campolo. He was speaking at that assembly as well. So just to kind of have my induction, have my good buddies around me, and just have Tony Campolo speaking, it was just absolutely awesome. Yeah, it was fabulous.
I'm not sure I'm right. May 2013, your dad's 90th birthday. I think this photograph is of that. But I may be wrong.
No, but that's celebrating Leslie's 30th wedding anniversary.
I'm sorry,
No,
Leslie.
no. But that just came just after it.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
It's all right.
But I did want to mention your dad's 90th birthday because that was a significant thing.
It was, yeah.
We did afternoon tea for him.
Yeah.
But then, sadly, November 2019, you lost your dad. He hadn't been well for quite a bit, and I know that was a difficult time for you and the family. But one joy that you felt was that we'd come to Olivia in a minute, well, a bit later, but he'd seen Olivia.
He'd seen her, yeah.
Something that really thrilled him.
Absolutely meant the world to us. Yeah.
He always wanted you to have a daughter.
Yeah, he did.
And that was achieved.
And you could just see her with him and him with her. It was just so special. So that's just I miss him dreadfully. You know, I think about him every day, but just that kind of keeps me going because I know he's seen her. So, yeah.
Family is very special to you.
Oh, it means the world. It absolutely means the world. Yeah.
I think it's time let's have 5 minutes, a 5 minute interval break so we can gather ourselves. There's some water there, and tissues and all sorts. But we'll just have a 5 minute break before we carry on. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, continuing the story. As a minister, you regularly conducted a number of things, and there are one or two slides here. First of baptisms. That's Liz Turner on the left, and that's what people see on the screen. The second slide, in the middle again, your baptism, Ali, which was quite a big thing, a special thing. So good at all these things, Matt. You've heard me say that before.
Hargreaves.
Yeah? I think that's...
You were worried he was.
And I remember with Phil, because he's a big lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's what, 6'2", 6'3", and I just trying to get him in to ensure that he didn't hit his head on the back.
Yeah.
It was not easy, but Phil being Phil was just so kind of laid back, and just excuse the pun, but let it all wash over him. You know, and he was just great. Yeah.
Weddings. Just one or two there. Dedications. At that time, there were just those two. There are loads of other ones. It's just a question of people, and I hope people don't get upset because I haven't shown theirs. That's Harrison and Ethan.
Do you know, I thought that was,
I think so.
I thought that was Harrison.
And sadly, many funerals, particularly over the last 18 months or so. And in all these things, you heard me say the other day, I just feel you're just so good at it. I know that's the wrong word, but you're just so in the right vein with it always. You're really gifted. So, also, ecumenical links were very important throughout your ministry. You've always made it a priority to work with the other Baptist churches in the valley, and you, I think, lead the East Lancashire Baptist Ministers Group. You are doing until you move out of East Lancashire.
Yeah, not anymore. But
and churches from other denominations, and you'll hear more from them in tomorrow's service, the ministers. And you also value the close links with the NWBA. The fact that Johnny's obviously come here as well has helped to cement that, hasn't it? Other significant events. When I was talking to Ali about these things, she mentioned her own time off with stress-related illness, which was a hard time for you. That was June to December 2014. And then summer 2016, you went to South Africa. This was your sabbatical. And you spent, it was a 3-month sabbatical, some of the time you spent in South Africa. Trevor's remembered you.
Matt and Eddie, transitional moments are massive moments in our lives, and just as you make this particular transition into a new community, know that here in South Africa we're thinking of you, praying for you. Thank you for all the good moments that we've had together. Crossroads retreat, watching Bury soccer games, curry and rice, climbing that mountain, and the list just goes on and on and on. Just thank you for your friendship, and really hope that we can connect again soon. Lots of love.
Well, that was an important trip, wasn't it? A very significant trip. And you mentioned the retreat. Just some photographs that when you gave us a bit of talk on it, but one or two of these photographs of that trip, 2016. And that's the retreat, and that's what proved to start a long journey, a hard journey, but with a happy ending, wasn't it? I remember you saying adoption. This is Ali. I'm quoting Ali. You have to blame Ali afterwards for all. Adoption was very invasive, going through everything, including our finances and taking references going back to 1998 because of youth work that you were involved in. Brian Williams has spoken to you about this as well. I'll put his video next.
As pastoral worker, I used to meet with Matt every so often at the Whitchaff, and we'd have a meal together. Matt always had the same menu, I always had the same menu. And before we actually talked about the reason for our meeting, which was the pastoral concerns of the people in the church, it became a sort of mutual bereavement group as we shared the disappointments of our respective football teams, Arsenal and Everton. I can remember on one occasion, after we'd shared our disappointments about our teams, Matt told me that he and Ali had decided to apply to adopt. And I was thrilled to hear this news because I'd worked for over 20 years in adoption. And I expressed my pleasure to Matt and also offered any advice or help, particularly about the assessment process that they were about to go through. I remember talking to him about the fact that social workers didn't very much understand about Christians, particularly Baptists. I think most social workers think Baptists are a bit of a sect who like dunking people in water. And so I advised Matt that he had to be perhaps a bit careful how he talked about he and Ali's life and to stress the fact that they were quite normal human beings. Matt told me that when he got to the process of the assessment, the social worker asked him who employed him. And in trying to explain that Baptist ministers are not employed by their church, he said that probably his boss was God. And I smiled at this and thought, I can imagine the social worker going back to the office and saying, I've got a problem. I don't know how we're going to get a reference from Matt's line manager. And I just imagine the discussion they had about, does God ever answer letters? However, Matt and Ali got through the process, and I was thrilled to hear that they were approved as adopters. It was also great when Matt and Ali announced in church that they were introduced to a child, to Libby, and that she would in due course be coming to live with them. And it was great really to see the way this new family grew together with the help of the family at K Street. And I always used to say to Christians, always stress the value of your church because it becomes an extended family. And it's so important when you don't have family members living near you. I think the most moving part was when Libby was dedicated, because for years Matt, watched by Ali, had to parade around the church with somebody else's baby, and it was so thrilling to see them be part of that for their daughter. I'm going to miss the chats with Matt, and I'm also going to miss the friendship that we've had over the years. And I'm sure that they're going to be used in a marvellous way in the future, and are also an excellent advert for adoption, because there are still loads of children who need adoptive parents like Matt and Ali.
You were approved as adopters in December 2017, and in May 2018 you learned about a 10-month-old baby girl called Olivia Grace, a lovely name, who you'd been matched to. And I think that was one of your first times when you were together with her,
Yes,
wasn't it?
first time we met her. The first photograph we saw of her.
Yeah. Have there another photograph coming up, I think?
Oh. That's right. Yeah.
Next one I like.
No.
It began the thrill of introducing Olivia to the family and the dedication. You did, as has been said, you dedicated so many special children, but how the church had waited and prayed for that day. It was a privilege to have, for Johnny, to have been able to dedicate Olivia in July 2019 in front of your K Street family. And Ali's recollection is that when you brought her to church the first time, when you were still on paternity leave, Heather was leading and asked everyone to wave rather than clap as a welcome so that she wasn't startled. The rest is history. And Olivia's arrival brought special pleasure to one or two other people. Here's a couple.
Hi, Matt, Ali and Olivia. We've been asked to send these greetings to you as friends and neighbours. I'm going to find it a bit difficult, but we'll have a go. Fred, being a man of few words, has said I've got to do all the talking. Someone once said to me, "What's it like living next to Vicar?" I bet you have to watch your P's and Q's. It's never been like that. It's been a privilege to have you next door. You've been really good friends and neighbours. You've been there for us and helped us over the years in many, many ways. And we're truly grateful. You've come round and prayed with us when things have been difficult. We've shared many celebrations together. Special birthdays, anniversaries, Olivia's birthdays, and with some lovely memories. Thank you, Ali, for doing our shopping for us during lockdown. When you've done your own, we'd be so grateful for that. Fred said, I have to tell you, that whenever he sees a mare's tail in the garden, he'll think about you both. You've fought a losing battle with those mare's tails because the roots go down so deep and it's almost impossible to get rid of them. Thank you for letting me be Granny Sheila to Olivia. She's been very special to us and we think a lot about her. We've watched her grow from a baby to the lovely, confident little girl she is now. We've missed her coming round during lockdown when she's run in, climbed on the piano stool, tinkered on the keys, but she's always had to have a music book opened in front of her. I particularly remember one sunny day when we watched her play in the garden. She had a paddling pool out, it was very hot, and later on Matt put the hosepipe on. She was running in and out of the water, getting absolutely soaking wet through, shrieking with laughter. It was lovely to see her. I'll miss her little voice shouting over the fence, "Granny Sheila!" We'll certainly miss you at 47, and we know you're not moving just yet. And we just hope, Matt, that you get next door to somebody who'll perhaps bake a cake for you at some time, perhaps make your favourite lemon drizzle. We know that God has called you to a new ministry, and we just pray that he will richly bless you in that ministry as he's blessed you at K Street. We know he'll greatly use you there, wherever the ministry will be. You are very special to us, and we love you all. We just say God bless you in your new home and your new ministry when you move. So for now we'll say goodbye, see you soon.
That's lovely.
So we've said K Street got another Hirst, but we hadn't finished then because you kept adding Hirsts to our numbers, didn't you? We'd been looking to take on an associate minister for a little while, and then to Matt's great delight we managed to get not just one more Hirst but three more, apart from Olivia. Matt had been having conversations with Phil Jump and a promising young minister, Johnny Hirst. Then he and Ali were driving back from Liverpool on a very snowy, icy night. They'd hired a van to collect nursery furniture, which they'd bought off eBay, and you found yourselves stuck in non-moving traffic on the motorway. You checked your phone for something to do, because Ali was driving, and read an email from Johnny saying he was keen in taking discussions further. And the rest, as I say, is history. So, what a way to spend the last years of your ministry with a church working alongside Johnny. Mm-hmm. Matt has said more than once that he was thrilled to be working alongside Johnny and to have a friend like that for Olivia. Mm. Right, let's think about less serious things. Let's think about the man, Matt Hirst. When he's at home, what sort of programmes does he watch? Well, we know he watches EastEnders. I was hoping, and I was let down by not getting something from two people who were going to write to you. I'll still give it to you when we get them. The people who play Kim and Danny Dyer will be writing to you, and I'll deliver the letters when they get there, because you like them, don't you, I think?
What? Serious?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
I was hoping, you know, I've been watching the post thinking, you know, it's just like the other. It doesn't matter, we'll get them to you. Okay?
No, they're two of my favourite characters. They just make me laugh. I can't believe that. Wow.
There you go. Well, there you go. Right. Now let's think about Matt. Matt the singer. I was looking to see if we could get any film of barbecue singing or whatever, but I couldn't manage it. The only thing I've got is this one slide of you singing there. I'm not sure it's Take That or Backstreet Boys or.
Well, usually it was either Take That, Back for Good, or Ronan Keating, When You Say Nothing at All.
Oh right.
Yeah, because those two were at the perfect pitch for me. Those songs, so I can sort of nail those quite comfortably, really.
I think really we should have asked you to have done a sort of farewell album, shouldn't we? That would have been...
you missed out. You missed out, Ian. Yeah.
You were not only a singer, Matt the sportsman. Now this is going to take a lot of pages, isn't it? Snooker. Let's start with snooker. As a young man, you go to London to play snooker with your dad and your uncles at your dad's work. One of Matt's most treasured possessions is a snooker cue that your dad gave you. I remember when we moved into Baldingstone House, the vendors left a full-size snooker table, which delighted the boys and I. Unfortunately, Judith had other ideas for the room. But you came and played a couple of times with us there, and of course you wiped the floor with us, but it was enjoyable. Football. From a very early age, Matt has been an Arsenal fan. Or has he? David Livermore has long been Matt's mentor, and he knows differently.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to share about my friend Matt. Of many occasions that I could think of to share, one stands out in 2010 when a group of Baptist ministers came to my house to watch an England game, 2010 World Cup. England had to beat Slovenia to progress to the next stages. And Matt sitting on a settee, getting more frustrated. Anyone who has watched him watching football will know the scene. And after 23 minutes, Jermaine Defoe, a Spurs forward, scores, and Matt leaps up and shouts out, "I love you." Love Jermaine Defoe? No. Is Matt going to say he loves England? No, that's not what happened. Or his beloved Gunners, Arsenal? No. So is he going to declare his love for Ali in front of the Baptist ministers? Sorry, Ali, no, not on this occasion. Is he going to be the man of God that he is and declare his love for Jesus? Again, I have to disappoint everybody by saying no. Out of Matt's mouth comes the words, "I love you, Tottenham." A shock for everyone as Matt declares his love for Tottenham Hotspur. Still shocks me to this day that Matt did that. Seriously, Matt, I just want to thank you for your friendship, for your support, for your love, and just thank you for all that you've done, not only for the churches, the Baptist family in Rosendale, but also for the churches together in Rosendale. You're going to be greatly missed, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank you. And our prayers, mine, Rachel's, our sons, are that you will continue to know God's blessing, God's leading, as you move forward in Him. Thank you.
Jack, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? What did you think about that?
Like I said to you earlier, I've got the ump with football at the moment. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
He's probably never heard me say that before.
No,
never.
But it's like when Grandad was with us, and we spoke. There was 3 of us talking about football. Because Matt lived up where you guys are up north, I always got the brunt off of Grandad. So when Matt come down, I just stoked the fire constantly. Constantly talking about Arsenal's defence, getting moaning to Matt about football instead of me. It was quite nice when he came down.
Well, I asked Ali how it came to be that, because I think George supported Spurs too, didn't he?
He did, much to my disappointment.
Yeah.
Yes.
But instead, you went with your next door neighbour's son. Auntie Lil lived next door, and her 2 sons, Simon and Paul, watched the Gunners. So much to the dismay of your father and Jack, and while your other school friends were going to teams like Millwall or Charlton Athletic, no, you got to go to the top. You preferred Division 1 as it then was, and now the Premier League team. I've just got something here for you. You might like to open that.
Oh. Oh, that is amazing. I've got to read this out. This is from Mikel Arteta, the first team manager at Arsenal. Dear Matt, I am sending you my congratulations on your long service of 20 years with K Street Baptist Church. I understand that you are a passionate supporter. I too am very passionate and excited about our continued journey together. Enjoy this special day. I wish you good health and happiness for the future. Best wishes, Mikel Arteta. Have some of that. How good is that? Great. Oh, Ian, bless you. Oh, fantastic.
I'll give it to you afterwards.
Yeah. Look, just got to show that up there. Look. Oh, Ian, I'm going to frame that. Definitely going to frame that.
Well, I've got a wonderful picture of Ali, actually. I could.
No, I'll have that. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sums us up.
There's a picture too, I think, of you at the Gunners with Danny. Is it?
Yes. Yeah.
And Arsenal actually won that day on Boxing Day.
We did, yeah. Miracle of miracles. Yeah.
That was a Boxing Day win.
And actually, I don't know if you remember, quite a long time, well, it is a long time ago, when you first came, there was actually a Deacons versus the Church football match. And it was held on Haslingden School football pitch. And you played in goal.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Ian, that seems to have...
And of course, the Deacons got thrashed by the young men of the church. But you've also supported the church football teams, who think a lot about you. You've been to watch them in the cold weather, and you've spoken at their socials and Player of the Season awards. And I've got this from the team. It's a KSBC shirt.
Oh.
So you can take that and show off, up in the lakes.
Oh.
Open it up.
Oh, that's awesome. Gosh, I'm going to do this.
You can tell I have wrapped it.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, fabulous.
That is brilliant. Again, that will be a treasured, that will take pride of place. It really will. Treasured souvenir.
Good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Ian.
Tennis, as a teenager, now this was one of your big sports, wasn't it? In fact, you played in the Kent Leagues and there was thoughts of you playing at county and national level, I'm told.
Yeah.
And table tennis, of course. Trevor will be able to give us some details about that.
Oh, hello. I didn't realise there was anyone else around tonight. You've just dropped in on Matt and I having a little bit of table tennis practice. We need to keep fit during lockdown and it's all socially distanced, of course. You know, table tennis is a game that Matt and I absolutely love. And you can perhaps just tell how much it means to us. This love of table tennis has been shared by ministers at K Street from John Pryor, still a good player, Adrian Argyle, Matt, of course. John is a little bit of a disappointment, but nonetheless we'll work on him, and hopefully the new ministry will be one of the criteria that we're looking for. Hope you don't mind if Matt and I just carry on for a minute. Is that all right, Matt? Oh, that was cheating. And Matt does cheat. It's called being a lefty. You see, as an aggressive left-handed player, all of Matt's strongest attacking shots go to the opponent's weaker backhand. In fact, we were playing in one match at Hindburn Sports Centre, and there was a gentleman who was a lovely, saintly-looking gentleman in his 80s, and he'd beaten me, and Matt hit him off the table. And at that point, he was still under the impression that I was the minister at K Street, and he was talking to me after the match with Matt. And when he discovered that it was the Reverend Matt Hirst, he looked at me and said, "Well, he doesn't play like a vicar." We'll just carry on for a minute if you don't mind. If you put a few down to my backhand, Matt. Got you that time. But you know, I've not seen you play as well as you've done tonight. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thanks for the game, mate.
And you've played quite a part in the teams? You played in the...
Yeah. Long time, well over 10 years, I think.
He mentioned
more than that,
it was being a tradition, and Adrian, John Pryor, all great table tennis players. My word.
Yeah.
I think that's a picture of at least one team, is it, that was winning?
I think that was an awards night, I think. Yeah.
So,
and I must say a word too about Trev. Just he's been organising that team and that club for well over 20 years, and he never talks about it in the sense, he never brags about it. He's just all very kind of quiet behind the scenes, and he just puts so much effort into making that club happen. And I think it's one of the most amazing outreach activities that we do, actually, and all thanks to Trev as well. So thanks, mate.
So we've gone through football, tennis, snooker, table tennis, and then golf. Now, this is one of the ones you've taken up in the last 20 years. I'm told by Ali that George at Atherton and another friend from Atherton Baptist took pity on you and took you around the golf course.
Yeah, that's right.
Were you picking up stray balls for them? But over the years, you've enjoyed going out and having a round of golf. And one year, Matt, this is shameful, you went on your holidays to Pitlochry, and Matt promised you weren't going to take your golf clubs.
Yes.
You were true to your word, however, you bought a new set while you were there instead.
Shocking.
Yes.
You remember this guy, I think?
Oh, it's a bit of a slice. Speaking of slices, hello Matthew, how are we? little bird tells me you're leaving the church for pastures new. Wishing you all the best, Matt. Good luck for the future. If you ever want to come back and fix that slice, you know where I am. Thanks, Matt. Bye bye.
That's great.
Mike from Rossendale.
Yeah,
Right.
Rossendale Golf. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, the pro there. Wow.
You and Alison, however, founded K Street's Golf Day.
Not me.
No. Sorry, did I say Ali? Yes,
No.
a different Alison, yeah. Sorry. About 12 years ago, outreach, golf and good food. You had weekends beforehand of weather forecasts and worrying about the weather. It usually rained, but at least that's what it seemed like. This is what Alison's got to say about it.
Welcome to the 6 p.m. sports feature. I'm Alison Perry, and this evening's programme is dedicated to one of the great local legends of sport. Strawberries and cream, bangers and mash, eggs and bacon, Matt and golf. Some things are just meant to go together. Tiger Hirst and myself have worked together for a decade, organising driving range evenings at Mull Pits and golf society days at a variety of locations across the northwest. From Oak Royal to Baxenden to Townley Park, we've grown from a dozen players to nearly 30, sweltered in the heat and nearly drowned in the rain, but we've always had a marvellous time. 2020 was supposed to be our 10th anniversary extravaganza. However, current circumstances have put this on hold, and I fear we will have to invite him back as a special guest to that particular event. Matt's love of golf is almost equivalent to his love of Arsenal and food. Thankfully, I think, Ali and Livy still top his chart in terms of affection, but we won't ask by how much. When I myself married a golfer, I decided I'd best acquaint myself with the game in order to avoid a regular widowing. Ali, on the other hand, has held firm in her disregard and disdain for the nonsense of whacking a tiny ball around a field. A roll of the eyes, a glass of wine, and a good book will suffice. You are indeed a wise woman, Ali. Our K Street Society days have never claimed to be blessed with the elite of the sport. A few among us, including the great man himself, can fairly competently and consistently hit the ball in a straight line. The majority are much more familiar with the air shot, the bunker, and the out of bounds. Once in a while, a dodgy handicap can arise that would challenge Rory McIlroy, and while the rest of us seethe, the ever-diplomatic Matt shakes hands with a smile on his face. Always an encourager of every player, on our society days, Matt would more often than not make up his foursome with the more politely described less consistent. Who can ever forget the year of Bob and Willie? I suspect the longest afternoon of golf Matt has ever endured, but once again, with the greatest of respect. Everyone in Matt's eyes has a decent shot in them somewhere. It's just that most of us would never have the time or energy to look for it. For a game that can seriously mess with your head, I think his optimism and positivity and slight leaning towards delusion make him the ideal golfing buddy. No one ever finished a round feeling bad if they partnered Matt. So, thanks my friend, for your commitment and enthusiasm in bringing about one of our most popular and enduring church events. Our regulars, none more than me, will miss you. Please come back and play a round of 18 whenever you can. From the 6 p.m. sports feature, thank you and good night.
Oh, that's lovely.
In latter years, you got to know Jeff Revel, didn't you? When he he started coming to the church, got involved in the church, the neighbours of Stephen D. And you formed a close friendship. This is another significant friendship, I think. You often play golf together, finishing with a pint and a prawn sandwich in the clubhouse. The last game you played together was October 2019. And sadly, Jeff died in early 2020. You miss him deeply. Have you actually ever played golf since then?
No. That was the last time with Jeff. Yeah. I didn't play well that day either as well, so I was just shanking it and slicing it everywhere. It was just, the company was great, the golf was awful that day, so I'm looking forward to picking up a golf club again, but yeah, I've not played since that time with Jeff.
Another sport, endless, skiing. You eventually found yourself something you could do together, I think, this sport.
Yeah.
That picture there, I'm not sure whether you're skiing or snowballing each other.
The first one we were in a ski lift, and the second one it was deep snow, and Dee was pummeling Matt with snowballs.
Right. And that was in Val d'Isere.
And that was in Val d'Isere.
Yeah. We've got a video from them, I think, too, here, coming up.
Hi, Matt, Ali and Livy. We want to share some memories of our time together over the past goodness knows how many years, and we thought where best to start than our fabulous skiing holidays. We first went skiing with you guys back in 2011 to Les Orr, a very memorable trip for the amount of Moems that Matt ate and nearly fell asleep when he was driving the car on the way back when we were stuck in traffic, through to some great holidays in Val d'Isere. And our last skiing trip was actually up in Scotland 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. Ethan was just a baby then as well.
It was. Erin, what's your favourite memory?
My favourite memory is when me and Auntie Ali did a race down near Grand Prix ski track. I won, but I'm not sure whether she let me win or not, but I was only about 8 or 9.
I think for us, the trips together have been amazing. We've spent it in the car together as one family, and we'll always say that you are our brothers and sisters. We were looking forward to spending this year first time with Olivia and Ethan on the slopes and showing them the ropes, but no doubt we will definitely be have that to look forward to. We love you lots. We just want to wish you all the best. And we know that this is a friendship that will last a long time.
And we look forward to the next.
What do you want to say to Livy? Say hi, Livy. Wave to Livs. Say love you, Livs.
We can't wait to be skiing together. We should be there this week.
Share a crepe.
Yeah, a crepe and
a Von Show.
A Von Show and a good ski down the slopes.
Lots of love.
Love
Lots
you.
of love.
Bye.
Bye. Put your goggles on. Cheers.
That's lovely.
I don't know if you call walking a sport, but it's another interest that you've, always had, and certainly more recently you've been able to have a good time up in the lakes, and of course the future holds every possibility for that. That was a very favourite present, I think, in the middle, was it? Is that a haversack you got for Christmas, I think?
Yes.
Yes.
He was very excited.
Yeah.
And the one on the right is when you got a certificate for when you got with Gavin somewhere?
That's right. We went to Plasy Brenin Mountain Centre in North Wales, and we did a mountaineering course over 2 days, and thankfully we passed, didn't we, Bud? We did, and it was a great couple of days. Really enjoyable.
There's a story here from Jim and Janet. About 10 years ago, Matt, Tim Pryor and I set out from Ambleside, I think this is from Jim, to walk the Fairfield Horseshoe. The weather deteriorated, and by the time we got to the top of Fairfield, it was raining heavily with gale force winds. We made a quick decision about how to get off the top to the next hill and got it wrong. We ended up with a much longer walk than planned to get back to Ambleside. As we were walking along, we came across a man parked by the side of the lake. He'd gone fishing all day, playing his radio, and his battery had gone flat. So he asked us if we'd push his car to start it. As Tim was the lightest, we went in the car and the rest of us pushed. Sorry, he went in the car and the rest of us pushed. After a couple of tries, the cart started and Tim shot off down the road, leaving us imagining the headlines, Baptist deacon accused of car theft. Eventually he came back and we handed over the car. As time was now getting on, we asked the man if he'd give us a lift to Ambleside. Yes, that's fine, you two can get in the back with my fish on your knees. So Matt and Tim drove back to Ambleside with a large fish across their knees. Gives you a whole new take on the fishing stories in the gospel. Thanks, Matt. We had a lot of fun together. But Gavin's got something to say about this.
Over the last 20 years or so, there were many of us in K Street who've had the pleasure of accompanying Matt, or being accompanied by Matt, on a walk, whether that's around the lovely hills of Rosendale Valley, or up in the lakes, Snowdonia, or up Bagingham Munro in the Highlands. Walking really is quite an ingenious form of Matt's ministry, in that, particularly for us men, it's a really good way to get alongside someone without really having to say a great deal. I've spent many an hour walking with Matt, and sometimes when I get back, Joe said, what did you talk about? And probably not a great deal. But that's good, thus that sense of being alongside someone. And maybe in those hours on the hills, there might be the odd snippet here where actually Matt's managed to get closer to us, or we've managed to get closer to Matt. And I think that's why Matt's walking ministry has been really successful, and I, for one, have really enjoyed and valued it. But what I'm going to do now is share some of the behind the scenes information on Matt's walking ministry. Wainwright famously said, "There's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing." And Matt really does take this as a personal mission statement for whenever he prepares for any walking or outdoor adventure. Matt is a firm believer in the art of layering. And at the start of every walk me and Matt have, I ask him how many layers he's got on that day. 6, 7, even 8 layers is not unusual. Now, some might say this is merely just good planning, making sure he's warm and insulated. But actually, one thing it doesn't take account of is the changing British weather. When I think about Matt's layering, one particular trip always comes to mind. Matt and I had set off to Keswick, and we were going to walk up Skidder from Carlside, doing that side ascent. It was a day not unlike today, nice blue sky as we set off. A bit of a chill in the air, but not too bad, and Matt rather bravely only had 5 layers on that day. Obviously his coat and some other couple of jumpers were in his bag, just in case. Now the problem is, with our weather, and particularly in the lakes, it changes. And soon into the walk, a cloud appeared and it got a bit cooler. So we stopped. Matt went through his bag, unpacked his bag, pulled out his jumper, took off his coat, took off his fleece, put on his jumper, put his fleece back on top of the jumper, put his coat back on, and off we set. Well, 15 minutes later, the sun came out. Oh, tropical it was. So we stopped again. Matt took off his bag, took off his coat, took off his fleece, took off the jumper, rolled up the jumper, put the jumper in the bag, tacked his bag up, put back on his fleece, back on his coat, bag on the back, and off we set off again. By which time, oh, the clouds had come back. So not 10 minutes later, off came the bag, off came the fleece. Oh, the coat first, how could I forget? Then the whole debacle started again. After sort of the first hour and a half of this sort of 15 to 20 minute pit stop for Matt to change his clothing, I'll have to admit my patience wore a bit thin, so I left him. Now, obviously didn't want to walk too far ahead, so I decided, as we just topped Carlside and we were approaching Skiddaw, and the path was quite wide here, that I would zigzag along the path to allow him to sort his clothing out and me to actually keep moving and keep warm. Because actually one of the downsides of stopping for Matt is it tends to be a bit cold when he just sort of stood there waiting for someone to unpack a jumper and repack a jumper. When it comes to gear, Matt and I both like to be prepared for all eventualities. We'll always make sure we've got our maps and compass, emergency whistle, emergency shelters and blankets and first aid kits. But for many years, I'm sure I'm not alone in being rather alarmed when Matt would share his secret emergency provisions. Somehow, and I'm never quite sure how, he'd gotten hold of a flare, a proper maritime distress flare. Now, this was obviously old stock that someone had given him, and I always used to worry and slightly flinch whenever I saw him just chucking his bag to the floor, thinking that's probably quite a unstable explosive you've got in your bag there. The only fell that has ever defeated Matt and I while walking in the lakes is Whiteside, and here we can pretty much guarantee whenever we plan to go walking, the wind will start. And by wind I don't just mean a little blow, a little bit gusty, a little bit ruffling of the hair, obviously not a concern of Matthew, but we're talking about gales. The first time Matt and I attempted this fell, it was a little bit windy when we parked the car. It was quite windy as we walked along the flat to the base of the hill, and as we started to climb it was a bit blustery, but luckily the wind was behind us, blowing us onto the fell. After about half an hour of staggering in the wind, we got somewhere close to a summit. At this point we got somewhat closer to the ground, as both of us were flattened to the floor by the gusts of wind. I kid you not. The sight of two grown men crawling, because we couldn't stand at this point, off the fells and slowly making our way back down is one I'm glad no one was there to record. Not the finest hour of our illustrious walking careers. So Matt, I'm not alone in saying thank you for sharing your love of walking with me and the many other people here at K Street. I think it's been an important part of your ministry, getting alongside people. And I know that it's something that you share with Ali and Liv as well. And it's good that as a family you enjoy walking as well. You know, we are blessed in this part of the world to have some beautiful places to go out walking, and I just hope and pray that wherever God takes you, you can continue to use your love of outdoors to get alongside people, to enjoy fellowship and friendship, and to enjoy just the great outdoors. Take care, mate.
Now for some other memories of Matt. Matt, man or Superman? You've got this great desire to dress up as Superman very frequently.
Yes.
Having graduated from the Incredible Hulk, according to Leslie.
Yeah.
Matt and food. I love that picture on the left. I think it's wonderful. The one on the right, I think, is when we're on church holiday. You've got, I think it's either a Soul Survivor.
So, yeah.
And in the back. But that must top it pie and mush and jellied eels.
Yeah. Oh, that's with Dad there as well.
Pie mash and liquor,
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Is it?
Liquor is the gravy. Well, ugh.
The last 18 months have been a very different and unusual time for us all, not least for the minister of a church. Here are some of the photos to remind you of this time. Well, it's been a time of challenge and change, and we now know what 2021 has in store for you. Some of the people on there, of course, didn't know that because it's only been recently. And so, to Hawkshead Hill Chapel. I think this is a picture of it.
Yeah.
Matt Hirst, this is your life.
No.
Just want to play a final blessing before we finish.
May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our
There you are. That's your Arsenal letter and that's your book with some of the photographs in.
Wow. Thank you.
Just before we sign off, I want to say just a few things really, just a few word of thanks. Big thank you, Ian, to you for just all your hard work in putting this together. Just the people that you've managed to secure on film, some people that I've not actually seen for over a decade, and to actually see them on screen and to hear their voices has just been incredible, really. So big thank you to you for putting it all together. Thank you so much for Johnny for putting all the slides together and making sure it happens, and to Steve and Jen at the back there for all your help, for every single person who's contributed in some way today. We are deeply grateful, aren't we? Tomorrow morning, I will say more in a more formal way of what the last 20 years has meant to me serving this amazing church family. And it's interesting that some of the things that Ian's referred to actually come up in my message tomorrow as well. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you all tomorrow, and hopefully, I guess, articulating perhaps in a more formal way just what the last 20 years has meant to me. So I look forward to sharing with you tomorrow, but for now, thank you so much for this. We will treasure this. We will treasure the memories, and thank you for all your efforts today. God bless you. Thank you.